Welcome to Imagination University TV specials on Imagination TV, and we're pumped to be gathering with people from all around the world at the moment to have conversations about Imagination University, which is a project that we've launched 48 hours ago to look at how we can bring together people from 5-year-olds to 105-year-olds who are desperate to organise change and are looking for the tools to bring that to life, to be connected in a complex social network for good, which brings together people from different cultures, different backgrounds, and builds those bridges between perhaps races, between nations, and between ages, so we can acknowledge each other's differences, but then find ourselves together in an imaginative group trying to work out how we build this world that we want to see tomorrow. So that's what we're here to talk about. We've got some people that are enrolling in the university, that are interested in the university, and we're going to have a conversation over the next hour about concepts ranging from higher order thinking to mentoring to building bridges to flipping the script to imagination to a social network for good. And that's all ahead of us. Look forward to hanging out with you all. I've been doing some painting over the last 12 months, and I was always a bit scared about paint. My mum's an artist and has been a professional artist her whole life, pretty much. Well, you know, she was a child for a little bit, but she didn't make some money for it, but she's been drawing for her whole life. And I remember watching mum paint and just being like, whoa, like I'd wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom as a kid and mum would be there painting. And as I went to school, mum had a bit of a profile. So our art teachers were always like, oh, that's really good, Jack. I'm like, no, it's not. You just want mum to come into the school. Anyway, I think I got a little bit scared about always wanting to be perfect or get things right, which often school teaches us, you know, how do you get the right mark or you get X out of 100? And I was so afraid of failure and so tight about failing. And in the last 12 months, I've found painting as this way to just be free and to not be afraid of failing. And I was thinking the other day that it's just paint, and how often we limit our ability to engage with things because we're so afraid of trying something. And I got so freaked out by this idea of, I'm not an artist. It's seriously just paint and you put it on something and then suddenly you're an artist. And I kind of think part of the work with Imagination University is unlocking what we think is first principles thinking, which is imagination. We think imagination isn't for little kids. We actually think it's a superpower for everybody. And we want to be able to make sure that we train that muscle together. And we also think that everybody is an artist. So we're going to catch up with a bunch of artists who might not know they're artists yet on the other side of this video.
We know what happened in 2020. So let's imagine 2021.
Let's imagine
what a free and just world looks like. Let's imagine
a university free for all,
with no paywalls to higher order thinking for anyone, anywhere.
Let's imagine
A social network for good.
A bridge for us to come together and redesign the way the world works.
Let's imagine what happens when we tell the kids at the back of the class,
We see you.
There is a generation of kids just like you.
Let's imagine school students, university students,
Teachers, executives, citizens.
coming together to work on a curriculum designed for a future that we hope to build. Now, imagine.
It's happening right here. And you're invited.
Welcome to Imagination University, brought to you by AIM, the Imagination Factory.
Applications are open now.
Hello, I'm Asterix, and I'm so excited about being one of the professors of Imagination University. Today, on the panel who are starting off our show, we have Chris and Barbara Bartlett in America. Chris, Barb, hello.
Hello.
How are you both?
We're doing well. How are you?
Oh, I'm under a bit of pressure. I'm trying to write a major thesis on hoodie economics, and I must tell you, it's quite challenging wrestling with what is kindness and exchange and all of these tough ideas. I'm grappling a little bit. You spent a bit of time doing some writing, Chris, didn't you? And at Harvard and doing some work with some young people?
Oh yeah, that's a good long time ago, but it's yeah, that was my profession. I was a professor and spent a lot of time with young people. And writing's hard. I understand the struggle you go through, but you'll get there.
Yes, I feel like I'm a bit scared that somebody's going to see through everything I'm writing and think I'm a liar.
You know, you can only write your own truth. So close your eyes if you can and just sort of go for it.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Barbara, tell us, why are you interested in enrolling in Imagination University?
Oh, you know, here we are. We live in this little town in Vermont, and we know we're so familiar with the world out there and a lot of the needs that especially young people have to be heard, to have people hear their stories. And this seems like an amazing forum. We're just very excited about it.
Well, let's bounce a little bit down the coast from the East Coast down to New York City. Fanny, how are you in Brooklyn? Tell us how things are going and what's piqued your interest about Imagination University?
I'm very good, thank you. I think what spiked my imagination, as you say, is the potential. And that's something that is driving me in any area of my life. So yeah, the idea of potential, supporting, developing, nurturing, any part I can play. This is what drives me.
It's a Nomad. Would you tell us about imagination, about, you know, I don't know, rainbows and things that we see that sometimes we dismiss, and you spend a bit of time in the world of magic, and perhaps we could take a bit of that magic into our day-to-day world. And magically your audio will work now.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, yes, it
Hello.
happens.
We're back. Yeah, so definitely magic is something that I've dived into a lot. It's the path that I walked as a being on the planet. And every single moment of every single day is actually magic. You know, we're all lucky to be here. And the magic that I found was in the rainbows, you know, the rainbows, very magical. Because we're standing next to each other and there's a rainbow in the sky. The rainbow that I see is different to the rainbow that you see. And to me, that's pure magic.
Well, we all take different insights, don't we? We sort of, what's the word? We have like a collective lens, I suppose. And then we have our own lenses. And part of what I'm excited about is one of my fellow professors works on building bridges. And I'm excited to think about how we can see rainbows differently and the same.
Rainbows are magic.
Absolutely. Nomad, thank you so much for joining us today and just helping kickstart this energy. We can't wait to see what you do in Imagination University. And Chris, tell us, as a young Tucker, what's bringing you back to university?
Yeah, that's the first time anyone's called me young in many long years, but it's true. I'm re-enrolling in university as a student who's learning. And for almost 30 years, I taught in a way in the case method, which is really about creating a scenario where you throw it out to the students, and the students then really put the puzzle together. They really provide the answer. And it's a group of 80 or 100 young people with lots of ideas and energy. And I think the thing that we very quickly realize is that all of us together knows more than any of us individually. And so it's that spirit of, how do you engage people? How do you engage the ideas out there? How do you energize the wonderful insights and expertise and innovative ideas that are out there in the world? And so I want to be part of that. I really want to engage and listen to this wonderful portfolio of people from all around the world in different roles and positions and from different countries. I really want to be part of that and listen and learn.
Well, Well, we can't wait to have you as a part of it either. And I hope you be a good student in my economics classes and you behave yourself and there's not too much chatter off the back of the class. Fanny, thank you for joining us as well. And Barbara, thank you for joining us in this first segment. We're now going to go check out the history of AIM, which is a video that takes us up to 2019. Some of you may be tuning in thinking, what credentials do these people have? Well, we've learned a couple of things and here's a little bit of what we've done. Thanks everybody for being a part of the first segment today. It's been great to see you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Opportunities are there and we're just there to help you.
$50 and you have to wear your budgie smugglers.
National Hoodie Day is a chance to look good and do good.
That next year we're going to run a global campaign to give away 20 golden tickets to 20 university students from 20 different countries to win a one-off scholarship for 3 years to see if they can take our model and rip a generation of powerless people out of inequality. Not only are we going to nail this back home, but we're going to turn our eyes to every kid that's been left behind and see if we can build a better, fairer world for us all. That starts tonight. Get ready for the next 10 years. You ain't seen nothing yet.
You. Sitting in the back row with the fire inside, we see you. You who has fought for everything, we see you. You who knows what it is to rebel, we see you. There is a generation of kids, just like you, waiting for you to see them. So if not you, then who? If not now, then when?
Took us up to 2019, and since then we've been working on how we can take the tools of what we've created and really be good at what we're good at, which is hopefully providing some tools and a roadmap on how to organise change. We know a fair bit about imagination, about mentoring, about flipping the script and looking at kids not as a problem to be fixed, but as a solution when you give them the stage. We've created over 400, 500 workshops for kids across 3 to 4 continents now as we've been developing this model over 16 years, and just kind of going, all right, we'll do that. And then we'll kind of get out of the way a little bit and let people go out and do the work and help create change, and we'll help foster a network around it. Joe, thank you for joining us on IMAGI-NATION TV today and our university specials as we sort of kick around this idea of what we're working on. I think you might have been contacted a little bit out of the blue, so I'm interested just in hearing a little bit about your story, your context, and just what sort of piqued your interest in seeing what we were exploring here.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. Thanks for having us. Yeah, look, I don't know what, but I do love what you guys are doing. And when I heard about what you guys are doing, I started thinking about, learning and how we do learn, and being such an online kind of world we're in now, especially with coronavirus. Learning can be so different. Like the idea of going to school and going to uni and getting a piece of paper that says you're smart and you're going to be successful and all those kind of things is not potentially the case. I kind of struggled through high school and I kind of I'm dyslexic, so I kind of mix up my words and letters and numbers and stuff like that. So learning has been a challenge for me, but I was lucky enough to kind of scrape through year 12 and then did a little bit of kind of graphic design at TAFE, but didn't last very long there. And then I just started to teach myself some stuff, did business management courses and online courses for like ZBrush and Photoshop and stuff like that. And that kind of thing you can kind of learn at your own pace. And I think it's amazing with the time we're in now that you can learn anything you want online for pretty much for free, which is pretty amazing a time for young people.
Yeah, I think
so. Yeah, I just want to.
So one of the things that I think fascinating that you pulled out there is this idea of being smart.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I'm smart. Like I seriously feel like I have to work so hard at knowledge and getting things. And I've met people now, like I've sat with prime ministers and kings. I sat at dinner once with the king and queen of Spain, which was wacky. But I've like been in some gnarly rooms with people who would be considered the top of their respective fields. Like interviewed Branson for an hour and a half. And there's this huge fragility in all of us, and the idea that smart can be broken down into one document, or there can be one price point for smart, and that's not maybe something that we're all just trying to find our way through all the time. Kupal, what do you think about being smart and where we've got to with how we measure that?
Well, first of all, it's so great to be with both of you. It's fantastic to jump on this great program. I think for me, smart is doing the best that you can with the resources that you have. And it's really your own definition. It doesn't have to be someone else's definition of smart. And I think, funnily enough, everyone has their own definition of what smart is. And smart could be really great at being an artist. Smart can be really great at being, good at maths or being a photographer. I think there are many definitions of what smart can be, and there's no one right answer.
I remember really early on working with a lot of the kids that we were working with. I'm just going to pull the microphone up here because my friend Asterix had come in and just stolen the mic for a little bit. One of the things which I thought was fascinating was these kids, a lot of these kids that we worked with and continue to work with, who have either Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander kids and now working with kids outside the margins around the world, they have more knowledge and wisdom and life experience than most 10-year-olds anywhere ever. And the real knowledge of what it's like to be a human being, what the world is like, how to hustle and survive and have street smarts. A lot of these things are like, they're such huge talents because you then know how to walk an untrodden path. And I think part of the challenge is finding a design frame for us all with learning where it's really, really helpful to have some paths where we can kind of just repeat a little bit, because that helps us get expertise. So, okay, we want to be a doctor. We're going to keep training this certain field of inquiry until eventually someone comes along and says, here's 10 things that break that, and then we remake it. But at least we know we want a path. I think valuing in parallel, Joe, people like your experience, or I always felt at school, I was like, I don't fit. I just want to go and do something else. Like, give me some freedom to just go for stuff. Give me the ball. Let me lead. Let me run the classroom at 15. Like, I wanted that. And so I think that's what we're trying to do, is build like a complementary support system that can kind of run in parallel. And the fascinating part, and I'll just open this to both of you for a comment, what I think the internet has done is absolutely created this crazy free encyclopedia of knowledge. And now the challenge, I think, is introducing a bunch of shepherds and mentors that can help us make sense of it. And a few of our social networks, I don't think, have done that particularly well to date. I think they've done curation of information, but it's unfortunately become linked to profit and outcome. And that's made it dangerous in terms of sort of how we engage with it. So I think sort of looking at, that's what we're hoping we can help with, is help be a good facilitator of information in the whole stratosphere of the universe. That's just a bunch of words. You guys say something.
Yeah, look, I'll totally agree. I think like I gravitated towards arts and being creative and using my hands and stuff, because I just things for me like maths and stuff didn't come naturally. So I played to my strengths, and we're all different, and we all learn differently. And I think if we open up that discussion and that platform, that we can venture out on different ways, and there's so many avenues. I make puppets for a living, and back in school, that's not a real, when I was at school, wasn't a real job. Even being an artist wasn't a real job. So having these,
it's funny with puppets, like I think they are the most unbelievable, and there's a few of them are looking at me right now who they sleep with their eyes open, so I hope they can hear me, and I'm going to talk respectfully to you, Professor Hope. When I walked through Jim Henson's, they've got a permanent exhibition at the Museum of the Moving Image in New York, in Queens. Yep. We lived there for the last 4 years, and I remember just walking through and being astounded with Jim's body of work and the team that he could bring together over the course of a lifetime, and just thought, that's a contribution for a human being. To leave behind a body of work that people can pick up. And in time, we've fallen in love with the power of puppets to take us all to imaginative spaces immediately, and to start pulling back the literal. And it's very helpful for us to work in different time zones and contexts. Hey, Kupal, can you tell us what are you interested in doing with Imagination University? What sort of are you thinking at the moment might be something that you want to bring to life?
There are so many things. I think it's, first of all, listening and sharing ideas with great people like yourselves, but also one thing that I'm really interested in is, so I work in the social not-for-profit sector, and really bringing the best of private, social and philanthropic organisations to solve some of Australia's biggest problems. And that's something that's really important to me, and I'm very passionate about. But also diversity and inclusion is something that's also really important to me as well, and making sure that, in the work that I do, that all voices are being heard, and that we're creating equitable societies.
One of the things we're working on as a resource for the Building Bridges philosophical field is a podcast called Let's Get Awkward, because I think part of the challenge is going to be, once we get people around the table of all different cultures and different backgrounds, if there's then the challenge, which is everybody from, not everybody, big generalization, but a lot of people coming from different lenses bring different lenses. And Absolutely. So suddenly we have to find a new thread line to communication skills, when traditionally those boardrooms have been white men from a certain world who have been through a schooling system, and more often than not have a set of cultural norms. Shifting that nuance and that muscle and that subtlety and awareness, where the white man in the room throws to another white man for the first comment, and then throws to a woman of color last in the room. And so working out, how do we become aware of all of those little things that are at play as we're trying to move the cellular change as well as the sort of macro change as well. So yeah, really excited. I could talk to you both for ages. Joe, I could talk to you for years about puppets. Thank you both for jumping on, and really looking forward to getting to work with you next year as we bring this to life. So thanks for popping by.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to it. Thanks, mate. See ya.
Awesome. All right, we're gonna jump out to a film that we made with a filmmaker named Laurent Witz, who has won the Oscar for the best animated short and has a team in France. And 4 or so years ago, we went to Laurent and his team with a crew called M&C Saatchi and said, look, do you want to make a film with us that could inspire people to change the world, to think about how we could get off these train tracks that we're on that sees one group of people constantly outside the margins and another group of people constantly inside the margins, and can we find a way to grab our hand out and bring people with us? And this is the film that we made together. And on the other side, we're going to catch up with a couple of cool cats to talk about Imagination University.
ticking clock to cure away. Every second means a mile. Every minute means a day. I hope you're walking in the sun. Hope you're going to be someone. Maybe one day, maybe today.
Thank you for joining us for the next segment to have a wrap on Imagination TV about Imagination Uni. It's great to see you.
My pleasure.
We regularly bump into each other, and I remember fondly seeing you in a yoga class in Coogee in New South Wales and having great yoga talent. So I hope you're still doing that.
Thank you. Yes.
Tell me, man, what's piqued your interest with this gig that we're working on?
Look, I think it's just it's such an amazing idea. I mean, I've been thinking about it, the last couple of weeks actually. And, as an actor, personally speaking, from my own experience, it's something that you face rejection every day, all the time. You're your own entity, you're your own individual thing. And the idea of creating something like this university where you can go into a place and it's a community of ideas, and you can share, you can create. I think that's what being an artist is about, and that's what I gauge from it when, I found out about this whole thing. What a wonderful space to be able to go to and share ideas with people from all over the world. And
it's one of the ingredients in Imagination that we've sort of tried to codify a little bit. We've got sort of 21 elements that we're trying to put together and build training tools around, and one of them's yes and, which I'm sure you know from sort of improv work. The idea that when someone comes with an idea, you just say yes and let's build on it. And I think that's been one of the gifts that I've learned, sort of wandering in and out of an artistic mindset into trying to be pragmatic with thinking about how you take ideas and then create change with it. And I'm really, my partner Yael is an actor as well, and Yael's often trying to work out how to have a channel of a life which is somewhat controllable, and then acting, you know, you get a gig and then you're suddenly like, oh, okay, there goes 3 months of my life. And I think working out, you know, she was doing a climate reality training course with Al Gore, and Al's been doing this course since he made the film. And he started with, after making the film, going out and going, okay, how do I teach people the tools to pragmatically put it to life? So he made a set of PowerPoint slides, and he'd go to Texas and he'd go to some of the places where people weren't necessarily thinking about climate change in pragmatic ways. And eventually they had a 2,000 strong, you know, global conference that everyone went to last year. And this year they flipped online. They did 5 days of online training, and then people went out and did their own projects for change. And they got 10,000 people that enrolled. And so that was actually part of the idea of inspiration for Imagination Uni. Yeah, it was like, hey, you guys could do this. I'm like, okay, cool, let's give it a crack. And, and I think about the artists, the creators, the like unbelievable juice that's out there, that's often in between jobs and has so much to give to the world, but isn't put into a place of structure or pragmatically. So I'm excited about that as well.
I think you're right. Like, because it's that potential that's there, you know, and I think as artists, you know, whatever they may be, it's just sometimes you can get caught in that, you know, individualistic, that bubble of just, you know, you, and you want to be able to do these things. You want to be able to kind of change the world in some way. I mean, that's why you became an artist in the first place, I'm sure. But a lot of the time you kind of don't have that avenue, you know, you don't have that place to put that, you know.
And story, I think, and Janine will bring you in to say hello. You know, I think story is maybe life, and some of us are playing our parts in a dominant story, and some are like, maybe I can pick up the pen here and I can start writing my own story. And I reflect on like human history and what I've learned, and I think artists are always at the precipice of seeing what's new, always being able to live in that imaginative space. And I think the challenge is sort of sometimes ungrappling that from a big blockbuster movie which pays the bills to then the true essence of artistic exploration, which is taking us to places we haven't thought of yet, and sometimes doing it in a way which is safe for us to get there, and building a bridge. Janine, you're interested in exploring a little bit of creation artistically. I think you sort of put in your application. Tell us a little bit about your context and what you're thinking about doing.
Yeah, so I guess I'm a bit of a dabbler when it comes to art. So like, as I work in education full time, that sort of takes up a lot of my focus, but I really love poetry and music, and I'm working on a children's picture book. And so like, I've always dabbled in the arts, and it was the foundation of my life when I was a youngster. So I guess I really want to tap back into that and find a way to use that piece of myself to make a difference, rather than just focusing on the professional side of me, which is always in education.
And what sort of, tell me, is there a practical project that you're thinking about, and what's some of the, I suppose, the juice that's gone into your head to make you think, oh yeah, I could do something?
Yeah, gosh, I've had so many ideas over the last few years about practical projects, and to be honest, Jack, that's why I think the university will be great for me, because it's about accountability and follow through, which has been a bit lacking in my life. Like, I've got spoken word pieces that I think are pretty cool that I've tried to put out there, and they haven't been too successful. I've got it's a matter of getting stuff finished for me. Like another project.
I interviewed Taika, just to jump in, Taika Waititi once, a film director for AIM TV, to talk to the kids, and Taika said, like, finish projects. And the other part, which I like about this, is when you say you're going to be a mentor or you're going to jump into this space as a citizen, and you know you've got kids coming out of marginalized backgrounds as entrepreneurs who are like, oh yeah, cool, I'm going to solve the water crisis. You're like, okay, I've got to be accountable. There's nothing like kids to make you feel like you're going to get the project done.
That's right, yeah.
Hey, Alec, what have you thought about what you might want to do with your project, or what you're thinking about for next year?
No, I mean, not too much. I mean, to be honest, I think it's more, the going in with an open mind and listening. I think, like, if anything, I want to kind of learn from everyone that's going in more so, and see what comes to offer, because I've found in the past with these kind of things, ideas and that imagination and all that kind of stuff just happens from the relationships that are kind of within. And all of a sudden it's that kind of back and forth, and it's that dynamic and those conversations that you create with other people where the ideas are kind of born from.
What an interesting challenge to maybe have like your project be, I want to try and have a blank canvas for as long as possible and wait for the best possible idea. So you're 8 months in and then suddenly that's true listening and taking away the pragmatic, all right, what's your goal? What's this stuff? Hey, Janine, is there some street theatre idea that you might have? Is that right? Did I read that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's not theatrical to the point, and I can't work out whether it's a busking activity or how it works, but I'm a Reiki practitioner, so it's like a hands-on healing practice, and I've always wanted to go out on the street and just, I suppose, hand it out for, 10, 15 minute slots to people who need it, because the power of that healing for me has been pretty profound in my life, and I'd love to be able to share it. I guess in a post-COVID world, people are a bit not keen. It's not a social distancing practice.
Well, Reiki, you don't actually have to touch. You could kind of just, 1.5 meter away Reiki.
you sort of can do that in a way, but I guess the touch is part of the experience sometimes for some people, just feeling nurtured. So, yeah, I've got to think of a way to make that work in the current world. But it's an act of courage as well, isn't it?
Yeah, we had it's so like seeing all of the different people who are sort of arriving, even just like, the first group of people that are enrolling, it's so fun for my brain to see some of the connections that are popping up. There's a lady called Christy Greaves who works with us, who's awesome. And Christy said when she enrolled, I think yesterday or the day before, I just want to make people happy, but I'm not sure what that is yet, but I want to do a project that makes people happy. And then Steph is another person who works for us, who's actually running the live stream today. How you going, Steph?
Hi, good, thank you.
Steph was talking about, you were talking about taking performances to the street, weren't you? Was that right? Do you want to just clarify that?
Yeah. Some micro street performances. So it's just for people that aren't really necessarily expecting it. Some kids come up and maybe do like a card trick at your table while you're having coffee at a cafe, do a backflip or something, and just leave you with this great feeling. And it also like is an act of courage for the kids, and just shifts the perceptions on how we see each other.
So I'm seeing like Alec sitting back with a blank canvas, just not touching anything, trying to draw the scene, a kid doing a backflip, and then Janine walking through with a Reiki session into cans. I reckon that'd be a pretty good compilation.
Looking really good.
Awesome. Well, Janine, Alec, thank you for jumping on and having a chat, and
pleasure.
And as importantly, like being one of the early people that see the potential of an idea. I think when you're creating something out of nothing, it's always a bit scary to make a leap. We're trying to work a bunch of stuff out as well, so I appreciate the courage to jump in and put your hand up and say, yeah, let's try and see what we can do to build this thing together.
Jack, I appreciate you being such on the front, on the frontier of this whole thing. I think it's amazing what you're doing, and it's just, it's awesome, dude. Really cool.
Thank you. Well, good on you. Good on you, gang. We're going to go catch up with Professor Lionel Korn, who he's a professor in organising change. He's also a master of the climate. So I think he's outside with some updates in Lionel's climate class.
During this year's fire season, around 110,000 square kilometres of bush, forest and parks across Australia burned. That's the size of Switzerland, Jamaica, Taiwan, Israel, Singapore and Norfolk Island put together. Which sounds like a fun country. Scientists recently said climate change increased the risk of these fires by at least 30%. I'd planned to ask some of the local animals what they think of climate change, but unfortunately 3 billion of them died in the fires, so there's no one left to ask.
Yeah, I think one of the drivers behind us trying to open up what we've got and try and facilitate a space for people to come together is the more that we zeroed in on looking at educational inequality, whether it's for Indigenous kids or for other kids around the world, it started to become a bit farcical if we were just creating a beautiful AIM bubble wherein, certain towns or regions, kids were getting educational inequality knocked out of the park and they were suddenly finishing school, and uni students were having a great experience. But we were just ignoring that these fires were ravaging through our country, or we're ignoring that there were significant economic challenges with the modelling that we've developed, which is seeing a lot of people missing out on basic services like food and water and housing and dignity. And that we were saying to these kids, I felt like it was a bit of a farce that we were saying, get through school, go to university, and everything's going to sort itself out. And I didn't feel like that was fair mentoring, that we should really try and be painting a picture of the whole world. And if we're for a fairer world, we should try and work out how the heck we're going to be a part of changing that everywhere. And that includes our relationship with the environment, that includes our relationship with each other, and that includes the way that we want to try and interact and build the ideas and the way that we work together. So I'm stoked to have you jump on with us, Charles, to have a bit of a chat and kick around a few ideas. I'd love to know what's ruminating around your head as you think about Imagination University, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Yeah, g'day, Jack. I'm zooming in from Walgara country up here in Townsville, and I want to focus on saltwater caring, which is I come from a marine background. My wife's in the medical industry as well, and medical researcher. And over the last decade, we've been working on delivering tertiary medical services to remote and regional people. So then, like learning through it and looking at it holistically, we want to provide, caring for the saltwater people, the saltwater culture in their country. And I figure that the best way to do that, I think, is building commercial services around that support those areas of care and need. You touched on the essentials of food, water, shelter, energy, education and health. Coming from working in offshore oil and gas industries, marine construction, and supply and support, I think a really good platform for it is a vessel, and doing it from the water and delivering a service that way.
Yeah, that's such an interesting idea. The water bridge almost.
That's right, a water bridge, but more than a water bridge, culture, trading and commercial activities have been happening in this country for 100,000 years, not just since Cook arrived. And we could have a network of if we want to trial the system here in Palm Island, where we are locally, where my wife's already set up a maternal fetal medicine clinic. But then, like at the moment, you can get a litre of milk is $10, on country. People are flying across and transporting. Where I feel like if we had a vessel where we could have an education space on it, a medical space on it, also run general cargo like fuel, water, food, fresh food, and attack it in building products and things like that. And then we can even grow it into a light maritime construction. If we need to build an access point from sea, we can sort of do it internally and on board.
It's really fascinating. There's got to be some, I don't know if the cruise ship industry is going to have much business in the next couple of years. There's got to be some dormant cruise ships waiting around, and thinking about who's there. And I love looking into what's the stuff that's just sitting there waiting that you can activate that people, are not necessarily imaginatively thinking about. We were also talking yesterday about, I'm not sure if we got you there, Mayra, but we might bring you into the conversation now. We're talking about the hotels and all of the infrastructure that's dormant in hotels at the moment, and then office spaces, and you've got all these people without places to sleep in big cities, and a lot of people that aren't going to go back to offices. So we might try and chase down, Charles, someone from the cruise ship industry to see if they want to jump on, or think about who's in boating and in that world.
Yeah, well, we in Townsville, amazingly enough, there's very few medical ships in the world at the moment. 3 of the biggest hospitals in the world are ships, but primarily from the US Navy, where they're converted oil tankers. They're getting back on point with organisations and equipment that you can use. Up here, the founder of Smiles Dentistry has a large charity called YAMA, Y-A-M-A, which is a Christian-focused charity that focuses on dental work in Papua New Guinea. And since the virus has occurred, his vessel has been tied up in Townsville, sitting there.
Yeah, right.
And he's got a huge, infrastructure in place, providing service, dental in remote areas.
Yeah.
So, there is a great starting point there.
Yeah, awesome. Really cool. And that we had a, yesterday we had a cool conversation with Shawnee Edwards, who worked for us for a little bit and played AFL in Australia. And Sean was up in Yirrkala, and Sean was talking about his idea to potentially use clothing as a social enterprise to raise funds and opportunities for kids in Yirrkala and in remote Australia. And after Sean spoke, a guy from the US who's a capitalist who works, a venture capitalist who works on investing in philanthropic activities, said, well, I want to join the uni so I can support projects like Sean. So that's what we're hoping to try and do. So when you have the granite of a really cool thought out idea like you've already got, hopefully there's chance for amplification. And I never knew that the three of the biggest hospitals in the world were, is always the three of the biggest hospitals.
Yeah.
Wow, what an amazing thing to
Yeah, and it's actually with the COVID, can be some positive that comes out of it. I was researching last night, and Yulston, one of the biggest makers, best Norwegian makers of ship, oil and gas support vessels, have already put out a short paper on the need for it. Mobile hospitals, there's the ability to convert oil and gas vessels. I want to look a little bit more towards future innovation, and obviously to get things happening quick, you use what's here.
Yeah,
I'm thinking more sailing vessel, a large sailing vessel, diesel electric, hydroelectric, so that to lower operating costs. Like big vessels burn a lot of fuel, and a network of smaller ones that link up. And this is where I'm terming it welcome to country, which is such an important part of culture. Is I'm sort of using that as tourism is an easy stepping stone. For the example in Townsville, they're screaming for an Indigenous tourism operation here. We've got the university, we've got the best marine research in the world, we've got a turtle nesting ground out the front, no one doing turtle tours or dugong tours. But where I see it linked in and as a way of creatively funding it, I want it to be commercial in the sense where it can stand on its own 2 feet and survive in time. And I did a lot of work with Shane from Tribal Warrior on the block, and that's how I've sort of come to you guys seeing your shirts around his office. Where with Jana, we worked with executives from, top tier firms in banking and accountancy and things like that, and developed a business model that has a clear succession plan for handover. So say Saltwater Caring, my company, we need to win a contract providing a marine service that links in with it. We tender that contract at full commercial rates and win it. With our charity, with our social side, we add in extra cost for every position in the organisation. There's a trainee from on country or someone else's country that shadows that guy and gets just practical experience, and then links in with your side and then takes the next step towards, formal qualifications.
Fascinating. I think it's going to be, there's so much moving on. So I'm stoked to have you jumping in with some really big ideas, Charles. And we hope this is going to be a space that allows lots of people to build on those ideas with you and see if we can do lots of good stuff. And who's the youngster in the background who's joined us?
This is Olive.
Hey, Olive, how are you?
Hi, Olive. You're on live all around the world.
Live TV, Olive. Good on you, Charles. Good on you, Olive. We'll see you in Imagination Uni in the next few months. Thanks for dropping in.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, good. Hey, Mayra, tell us, what are you interested in with Imagination University? What sort of piqued your interest?
Hey, Jack, I'd just like to acknowledge that I'm on Wadi Wadi country of the Darul Nation. I was interested in the AIM Imagination Uni because I guess a lot of us have really big ideas, and sometimes with big ideas you need some help from others, and this uni I feel is a really good way of addressing and helping each other. But one of my big ideas for the uni is, as you know, I have done a lot of art and dot painting and cultural art. And for a lot of people, purpose is what a lot of people look for. Like sometimes it can take a long time throughout their life, but I'm sure that it's quite in front of us. It's right there, and it's equality and equity, to get equality within, you know, the human race. And a way I want to do that is through art, maybe through doing big murals that tell stories of the inequality and inequity. But it's just like, I guess the university would be a major way of, you know, getting it to the people that are uneducated about these situations. And I guess, like Charles saying, like big ideas, and I guess the Imagination University is a great way that a lot of people can help, you know?
Yeah, I was thinking with that one, we caught up with this crew yesterday called Semi-Permanent, which they started by like an Australian gang, and they've done really well doing these gnarly, like creative cultural festivals around the world for the last 20 years or so. And we're talking to them about exploring them taking imagination to the world with us. So going into spaces and really doing fiercely imaginative experiences with the pointy tip, which is we want to have an exchange of change. So we want to unlock 100 jobs for marginalized kids in that area, or we want to unlock something new. You know, we unlock the tourism idea that Charles was talking about, whatever it might be. I could see a world where you're in the university, you post on Slack, hey, this is a project I'm working on. I want somewhere to do some murals or some artists to work with. And they've worked with Banksy and other people before. And then suddenly you're part of a rolling imagination touring festival that goes to Hong Kong with artists from Nigeria, with Banksy. That's sort of part of what we're hoping to be able to curate. So my main advice would be vocal in the network and make sure that of all this space, I think we're going to have an environment which is quite different to other social media spaces, where ideas, especially ideas that don't fit the box, are really, really lifted up, and a lot of positivity. And so I think use that platform and that stage. And the one lesson I've learned over time is you just keep saying the dreams out loud and wait for the people to hear it. If people don't hear it, it's just a closed door, but there will be an open door, and it only takes 1 in 100. And then sometimes it's 1 in 1,000. My gosh, it can be exhausting. But if you've got it and it's in there, then just keep sort of putting it out there. And unless you speak about it, people won't know. So hopefully we give a stage for youngsters like you, Mayra, to be able to speak about it and then build people together that can help bring it to life.
Well, yeah, one of the major things with this university is it's unlike any other. When you think of university, you've got small boxes you have to fit into, and everyone learns differently. I know that I learn much differently to the people around me. We all learn very differently, and it's like all people from everywhere are able to come into this space and share their different ideas, and all walks of life. You find connections, and as an Indigenous person, connections are key to, you know, having smooth goings, you know.
Awesome. Well, I'm pumped to work with you next year on it and see what happens. And yeah, keep letting those stories flow out of you. I know they're sort of unstoppable when they're coming. So keep going for it, and looking forward to working with you next year. Thanks to Charles and thanks to Mayra for joining us. And we're now going to jump over to a clip which we've been showing over the last few days, which is every year or so we do an anthem with a bunch of AIM students from around the world to reflect on the year. And we did this in 2019, which was a pretty big year for us. We just started to explore rolling AIM out in the United States, and we've been working on the ground in Uganda and South Africa, and we're about to start in Zimbabwe and Nigeria. We just started working with African Australian kids, and we completed our 15th year of working with Indigenous kids around Australia, and had reached sort of 6,000-7,000 kids that we were working with that year. So it's a big year, and we thought we'd give the stage for these kids to talk about the change that they wanted to see. And they took on Sam Cooke's song, A Change Is Going to Come, and this is the song they created. Thanks, Mayra. Thanks, Charles, for dropping by.
Thank you.
Oh, and just It's been too hard to live in, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down my knees.
There's been times that I wouldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
Ed, thanks for joining us to have a chat about imagination, about building bridges, about creating change. Tell us what sort of piqued your interest as you saw this sort of land in your orbit, and yeah, what do you see from your side?
Well, I'm all about making change. Like last year, I graduated from my high school, and I went through, I started in year 7 and, went through looking at the education system. And by the time I got to year 12, I'd sort of had this full picture of what I wanted to change about the education system. And now that I've come out and into the world and it's become Corona and stuff and we've gone under lockdown, I've been trying to reach in any way that I possibly can to preach like education and some change, because I don't think we're getting enough. I don't think the youth are being told the full truth, So I got the email about the Imagination TV thing, and I was so overcome because as a musician and as a music teacher, I want to do anything I can to get my knowledge out there and like to share that with the youth of today, because I feel like I genuinely have something to say. And I feel like the Imagination University, I feel like that's a really, really great place to start for change.
Yeah, I remember back in 2004, sort of trying to work out, like 2003-4, work out how to create change. And, I always thought music was a really big mover to move the heart. You've got the head, you got to move with documents and be like, oh, okay, here's how the steps work. But yeah, music and art more broadly, it gives us a chance to move our heart to another space, our soul to another space, and then our head can sometimes follow afterwards. And I was kind of thinking, all right, I see these two broad camps. Like I see people who sort of have power and wealth and opportunities, and I see a big other group that don't get a lot of power and wealth and opportunities, and just stumbled across this concept of mentoring as a bridge. And the more that we've lived like the mentoring world for 16 years, I've kind of just seen that maybe we just lost that as a natural part of how we relate to each other, that we share the knowledge that you're talking about organically, that's just I think it's in us all, to actually want to pass on our knowledge to all kids, not just to our kids within a little tiny lens, but to all kids, so kids can then go, oh, cool. That's what Ed did. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that because he told me those 4 mistakes, but I might do that one because that's a great tip. And then we make progress and we get to actually, hopefully move a little bit more like that as opposed to going up and down and up and down. Hey, Kat, tell me what's interesting you, or what sort of piqued your interest as you're looking at Imagination University, and have you thought about a project you might want to work on?
Hi, Jack. Yeah, well, I just think that the whole concept of Imagination University is just amazing. Because I grew up in a country in Austria where I was privileged enough to, we do not pay for university, so it's free for everyone. So I experienced firsthand the doors that it opens for everyone, for people who might have not been able to afford that. So yeah, it just got me really, really excited, and especially because it just connects people. So I'm really passionate about, connecting with people, and especially so at uni, you have your age group, but with this, we, as you said, it's for 5-year-olds to 105-year-olds, and everyone has something to say and ideas to bounce off. So yeah, just got really excited. And yeah, my passion, what has really been on my mind for the last couple of, always, but especially last couple of months, is just the environment, the climate change, everything that is going on. I'm just so inspired by our younger generation taking it into their own hands, like Greta Thunberg. And yeah, so I was thinking, it actually just came to me before jumping on the show, because I was like, oh gosh, I need to find a project. I knew it should be something related to, sustainability and climate change. And then I was like, it'd be really cool to do some sort of Zoom planet parties, a monthly Zoom planet party where you connect people from different countries and just bounce off ideas and learning different approaches on how to, tackle issues the plastic waste, or how to live sustainable. Especially, I think it's harder for people living in cities. And so I was just thinking to maybe, do a little Zoom party, and then maybe setting challenges for the upcoming month, or, doing some little DIY projects and sharing resources. Yes,
Yeah, very cool.
Something simple like that.
Yeah, I think part of what's nice, I was loved chatting with Alec before about him not necessarily having a defined project yet, and being able to enter with, which part of the challenge sometimes, I think there's 40,000 not-for-profits in Australia, which is a lot. There's only 20 odd million people that live in the country. So often there's lots of projects that are started, and then there's lots of things that are happening that if someone who was starting that project knew about what was happening and could just go boom, that would become a rocket ship. So I think having that balance of coming in with a broad idea concept, and then having the grace and the class to think about what's happening in an ecosystem and how you can build rocket ships for change, as opposed to us all having these little go-karts that we move around on. Hey, Mike, thanks for dropping in with us. It's cool to see you again and catch up. We've been working on this project since probably the last time we saw you on Imagination TV, and sort of reflect on your story, riding the waves around the world, and what you sort of learned from that. Can you tell me, as I know you've got a quick cheat sheet on what we're up to, but what sort of piqued your interest with Imagination University, and just give the guys listening a little bit of a backstory on what you've done with your life so far? You just want to chuck yourself off mute. Sorry, man. Off mute, we got you.
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you, man. And then the video, we might have to just bang the video back on.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, I'm on my phone right now.
We got you. We lost you.
Okay, I don't know why I think I'm on my phone, that's why. But yeah, I guess just to give you guys a little bit of background, I started, I guess, early on, just really with a passion for something that was very strong. Wasn't really didn't really fit into the box of traditional education, I guess, and traditional lifestyle, and just kind of forged my way through life, following my passion, and I was able to kind of make it work. So, well, not kind of, I guess you could say I made it work. So, yeah, and it's kind of led me down the path of a pretty amazing life, and yeah, pretty stoked. I guess what's piqued me about what you guys are doing is the really nice ideology of where things could potentially go. So it's very positive, and so that's kind of what's interests me, because it seems like there's a lot of different aspects to this that are in each of those little facets. There is a lot of potential, and each of those facets seems to be very positive. So
I've been thinking about like how to wrestle with the design of what Kat was talking about, Ned was talking about. How do you create change? You want to see things change, and then how do you get out of your own way and let the waves go and sort of roll with them a little bit? And I think part of that natural energy that the world is moving, like I think it's moving right now at 1,000 miles an hour or something, like we're spinning around, and I think the speed of light is 299,000 kilometers or miles a second, like bonkers fast. And so this idea that things aren't constantly in flow and in changing is just factually incorrect. And what I think we might have finally worked out is where to get out of the way and where to let people's energy and waves just go, and to provide space to just help curate that and those connections happen along the way. So hopefully, it has a bit more of a natural design feel, because some of our organizations are kind of closed doors, and you build your hierarchy and you try and keep your own little wealth, and you try and get your awards or whatever, and then you compete and you compete and you compete and you try and win. But if we build a perfect AIM world and then the rest of the world sort of buckles, and waves and water rises, and we have fires happening everywhere, we have more pandemics, and for this small bucket of kids we work with, they had a beautiful life. That kind of feels like a bit of a farce. I'd feel like a bad ad guy if we sort of did that. So it's nice to get out of our way a little bit, and stoked to have you kicking it and being a part of the next chapter with us. It's gonna be really fun.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it seems quite utopianism, or whatever that word is, for the utopian vision. But hey, I think that you might as well cultivate that one, and
I think you
try to get as close as you can.
Got to protect it. And then I think I've got to be aware as like the founder, not to get high on my own supply, and stay grounded and make sure that we have people around us all that keep us grounded, so we don't. I think a bunch of the social networks or big ideas that have been created over the course of human history sometimes get really tempted when they get power to then move away from why it was set up. So I think as long as we can all keep each other grounded, and feel free to be like, Jack, what are you doing? You've lost the plot at any point if you feel like that happens. But I think if we can balance that, we might be able to achieve something really interesting by creating this space together. Hey, Ed, I saw you pick up that guitar there. Are you going to give us a little treat?
I was thinking I could. So earlier on this year, I released my first debut single, Pass the Blame. And it's all about, initially when I released it, it was all about the fires, the bushfires that happened all around Australia, beginning back in September of 2019, which seems like a whole other world now. And as the 2020 has unfolded, I feel like this song has taken on a whole new meaning. So I just wanted to play a little the chorus, just because I feel like it's really important, and it sort of shares what I want to do with this message, because the blame has been passed so much, especially through this pandemic. So here we go. Okay. Our country, it is burning up in flames, but no one is willing to take the blame. Oh, it's so clear that the world won't be the same, so let's ignore the blame and just pass the blame. Pass the blame. Pass the blame. Blame, 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 blame. It's just a little chorus, but I feel like that chorus is so important now, especially throughout 2020. The pain keeps it being ignored, and the blame keeps on being passed around.
Absolutely. Well, Ed, Mike, and Kat, thanks for dropping in to reflect on what we're going to try and build together, and stoked to have you guys connecting into it. And if you want to enroll and you're watching the show, just head to aimmentoring.com and you just punch in a really simple expression of interest, and then the applications will be open in the next 2.5 months. And then February 1 next year, we do 5 2-hour shows to kickstart the university and really teach the theoretical components, which are going to be about organizing change, imagination, mentoring, flipping the script, hoodie economics, and then looking at how we can build bridges together with each other. So that'll be what we're working on. I say shows because the small reveal is there'll be 5 acts performed by our puppets, which will be our professors of the university. So that'll be the first half hour of every 2 hours, and then we'll have a live TV show experience with mentors from around the world. And then you'll gather in your tutorial groups, which will all be designed on unlikely alliances. So perhaps, Mike, you'll be in a group with Ed and with a high school kid and with an executive and then with another citizen. So we're really trying to cultivate this idea of a complex social network for good, where we really build bridges between people who wouldn't usually connect. So Ed, Mike, Kat, thanks for dropping in. And it's been a pleasure hanging out with you.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you so much.
Oh, good. We'll catch you soon. We're going to go to a short project we've been working on over the last couple of years, which we're going to help hopefully keep working on, called Dreams, where we've just gone around and interviewed a bunch of young kids about where dreams come from. And then on the other side, we're going to catch up with a friend who's helped me kickstart the dream of AIM along the way, and a couple of people to round out today's show. So we'll just go to Dreams now.
We want to try and work out, where do dreams come from? So what do you think? Where do dreams come from?
From the dream time.
What are dreams?
Comes from your imagination.
What is that?
It's like a world of things that you think of.
What do you guys dream about?
Riding a unicorn and a turtle on its back.
A turtle on the back of the unicorn, or the turtle and the unicorn next to each other, with you sort of one leg on each?
Next to each other, I'd say.
Next to each other.
Who's powering the movement?
A cheetah.
What do you dream about?
Being rich.
Echiloto chichi.
I want to know, what's a dream?
A train is something that runs on the rails, and it takes people from Brooklyn to the Bronx, or from Queens to Brooklyn.
Who makes dreams?
Us. Your brain? I reckon dreams are clouds what like are in your head, and like they picture all the stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do actually.
I think I go to sleep and my bed takes me to this stuff.
Your bed takes you?
Yeah, it kind of flies and takes me to these places when I sometimes have dreams.
What is your dream? Do you have a dream?
I dreamed about dinosaurs. You can dream about like you're in a forest or a jungle. I have dreams when I'm a green guy who can turn into animals.
Who invented dreams?
Martin Luther King.
When do you reckon the first ever dream was ever had?
1981.
So since 1981, when the first dream was had, have all people since that moment been able to dream?
No.
Why do you think no?
Sometimes people need to see stuff and hear stuff to dream. Or some people don't, because they can just stay up and don't go to sleep. Yeah, I reckon every kid has a dream. But sometimes you have a scary dream, like on Halloween you might have a scary dream. And those bad dreams are so, like scary. Sometimes you dream about when you are in a scary hotel where there's vampires and zombies and skeletons that are still alive.
How much do you think dreams cost to make?
$10.
$10?
That's a well-priced drink.
What do you think, Bob?
The amount that you have to pay the hospital to get yourself out of your mum's belly.
What is psychology?
Psychology. We don't know the word that we call psychology. And that word is confusing us. We don't know. Psychology. Psychology.
Why do you think we use imaginations? Why as human beings, why do we have an imagination?
You can go off into far places. I don't know. It's hard. Really hard.
Why is it hard?
It's just hard.
Well, that might be our time.
Oh, hello, Duncan. I'm Asterix. I'm the professor of hoodie economics. Did you study hoodie economics at Eton or any of your 35,000 business schools you've been to? You might be on mute, fella. I think you're on mute.
Ah, I found it. Took me an awfully long time.
Oh my gosh, the suspense. The heart rate.
Very exciting, isn't it? There's a button, it's so tiny. There's this great big screen and there's this little tiny thing bottom left that I actually had to find. Hello.
Hello. Now tell me a little bit, Duncan, about your story and how you've landed in this world looking at Imagination University.
How much of my story would you like? How much time have you got?
Oh, 20 seconds.
10 seconds. I'm an Englishman. I grew up in England. I was incredibly lucky when I was a very young kid. I got a scholarship to a very posh school where I learned all sorts of exciting things about Latin and Greek and art and music and intellectual stuff. And that got me, it was an incredible opportunity to actually really broaden my experience of the world and the things that I actually became passionate about. Later in my life, I came to Australia. While I was working in Australia, I was lucky enough to meet Jack right at the beginning of the AIM journey and to be part of the conversation with Jack about how to get AIM up and running. And now, years down the track, here I am wondering how the Imagination University can actually help me to get better at actually helping our business to have a far more diverse executive team than we have today.
Brilliant. Well, we are very excited to work with you on that project. And I think we have a couple others joining us on this short panel. Elliot, are you there?
Yeah, hey, how's it going, folks?
Yeah, good. Elliot, tell us what, I'm Asterix. It's my pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
You're having a lovely evening?
Yeah, it's going all right. I got some Thai food, so I'm doing better than I was before.
Yum, yum, yum in my tum. Tell us, Elliot, what do you what sort of piqued your interest with Imagination University?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the idea of the kind of the intergenerational like praxis, like people from different generations and places, physical, geographical, cultural locations coming together and having conversation and learning from each other. That's something that I try to do as much of as possible. And so that's the kind of thing that really appeals to me too, as well as, positive and developmentally oriented uses of imagination.
Yeah, I think one of the things which I love, one of my fellow professors works on building bridges, and this idea of a complex social network, and where Duncan can have his suggestion or desire to change the playing field in an executive team, and then you can jump in and say, hey, Duncan, check out these 5 people, and we can work together on the project. Jose, tell us a little bit about what you're looking to get involved in here.
Hey there, guys. Well, firstly, thanks so much for having me. Very excited to meet you.
My pleasure as well.
I'm super excited because I was fortunate enough to actually grow up traveling around the world with Cirque du Soleil. So traveled all over the world, and I sort of learned the lesson that there's not just
My
one
cousin
world.
was in Cirque du Soleil. Did you know that?
No way, that's awesome.
Did you
Which
ever meet my
show?
cousin George?
Oh, awesome. Which show was George with?
They purple fur, bit of a bigger head than me.
Oh, awesome. Well, we'll have to connect because it is
Germany.
a very small
It
world.
was in Germany.
Oh, awesome. Well, I'll find out how I know George. That's so cool.
Me
It's
too.
and it's such a small world, and I was just like I was saying, like it's pretty insane that everyone thinks there's this big one world, and the reality is there's actually just like 8 billion different interpretations of it and understandings of it, and I believe that we can change the world by changing each person. And I think that's what imagination and what AIM does so amazingly, is that you're actually, helping change that person's understanding and perception of their world. And as we continue to do that, that's how we change the whole world. So I'm super excited to get involved with that.
It's a often my economics fellows, they sometimes dismiss words like imagination. And I sigh and think, earlier today on the show we had a guy called Nomad, and Nomad is a magician. Nomad was in a rainbow bus, and he spoke about rainbows. And he said, all of us, when we see a rainbow, see a different rainbow. Now, a lot of people would go, oh, hippie, trippy, this, that. But it's exactly what you said there. Billions of different insights, and we have to try and work out how to make sense of each other, let alone make sense of what's inside of us. Gosh, Duncan, isn't that hard enough to talk to ourselves? Duncan, I'd love to come to you and reflect. We're about to finish a show today. Reflect on, how do you work with unlearning? When you find someone or something that challenges everything you've learned, how do you find your way to that different viewpoint?
I think the first thing's humility. The first thing is the recognition that everything that you've learned to date is just what you think you've learned, and maybe you've misinterpreted and misunderstood it as you went through. So the ability to actually recognize, I think a lot of people as they get older actually become more hidebound in how they think about things. They just assume that what they've learned must be true because it held good for them for a long time. I think part of what we're trying to do is to actually break through that and get people, particularly people in power, the people at the top of the pyramid, to actually recognize that what they've learned may be fundamentally wrong. And I think humility is the word that breaks through.
Elliot, Jose, have you got any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Oh, I'm sorry, Jose. You want to go ahead?
No, you go first.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to say I think empathy as well is another way that we can learn about other folks, right? Trying to imagine what their experience must be like, and try to put ourselves in other people's shoes. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I run a nonprofit called Today's Future Sound. We use hip hop beat making and culture as a mental health educational and cross cultural intervention. And one of my lead instructors is his hip hop name, alias, is Unlearn the World, which I think is a pretty profound pseudonym and alias and metaphor in itself. So I really think also equipping folks with critical thinking skills and encouraging folks to be critical of ourselves, of what we quote unquote know, and just being open to continuously learning. That's something that I really value in myself and others, is being willing to learn from many different places, sources, and just in general being willing to continue to learn.
I completely agree with that, or both of what you guys have said, because I think it's so important. I had this thought the other day, and it just popped into my head just as you were talking about that. And I think it also does. We talk about empathy and we talk about humility, and a lot of it, quite often, we sort of think about, so it's so external, whereas sometimes it's important to take the time and actually look at ourselves and sort of think, okay, well, what's made me feel or think this or have this understanding? And I've been spending, this last 12 months, I've learned so much about my own privilege, my own understanding of the world, my own experiences. And it actually took me sort of stopping myself and thinking, okay, well, why do I think like that? So if my understanding of something is because I've only ever grown up in this area, I love the quote where it's don't walk a mile in someone's shoes, but put on their pajamas and walk in their dreams. And I think it's something so powerful that we can do, because my dreams are coming from a platform where my life has been here and this is where I'm wanting to go. But some people might just be thinking where you are right now is all I want. And so I think having that empathy to look to yourself, but then also look out to the world is so crucially important. It all starts from within, you know, and building those skills.
Jose, what a great way to finish today's episode. Duncan, Elliot, Jose, I cannot wait to put on your pajamas and walk in your dreams with you all together.
I don't wear pajamas.
Oh, okay.
Enough already.
Oh gosh. Thank you all for being a part of this experience, and very seriously, we really can't wait to change the world with you all next year at Imagination University. Head to aimmentoring.com if you'd like to enroll, and we're going to finish with the university launch film that we've just made and just released. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you all on Monday, Australian Eastern Daylight Time, for a 12 noon special as we roll through a fantastic mixture of people who are looking to change the world. See you all.
Take care, folks.
Thank you.
We know what happened in 2020. So let's imagine 2021.
Let's imagine
what a free and just world looks like. Let's imagine
a university free for all,
with no paywalls to higher order thinking for anyone, anywhere.
Let's imagine
a social network for good.
A bridge for us to come together and redesign the way the world works.
Let's imagine what happens when we tell the kids at the back of the class,
we see you.
There is a generation of kids just like you.
Let's imagine school students, university students,
teachers, executives, citizens
coming together to work on a curriculum designed for a future that we hope to build. Now, imagine.
It's happening right here. And you're invited.
Welcome to Imagination University, brought to you by AIM, the Imagination Factory.
Applications are open now.